some of you might be saying at this point, well, yes, I agree with everything that Mimi just told me. That isn't particularly new, but it's a foundation for new attitudes and new worldviews. So what we're going to shift to now is some of the material that we really learned in Earth Law. And I think, again, I just want to say the title, and I've got to get it right somewhere here.
Do you want me to read it?
Yep.
Earth Law, Emerging Ecocentric Law, a guide for practitioners. We all get to practice.
So we, I want you to look at on this handout sheet again where it says reflection questions. And just take a look at the 4 questions that are there. We're not going to do a whole lot with them, but I want you to think about, what does it mean to say we're called to live in interdependence with the whole Earth community? What is the state of God's ongoing creation of our whole Earth community, of our universe also? Its land, its air, its water, its plants, its animals, which include humans. And the next question was something I hadn't really framed in this way until we took the Earth Law course. Is it possible we might come to a point where the Earth community as we know it cannot survive? We certainly have seen the destruction of many diverse species. We know that we've got plastics in our bodies and in a lot of the soil and all the things that were pure at one point. We certainly know that pollution that's in one place is in the whole atmosphere of the Earth. We know that, I believe we all know that human activity has raised the temperature in the Earth, causing more storms, causing droughts, causing different things with our food sources. So I'd really ask you to consider, is it possible, maybe not in our lifetimes, looking at all of us, but in the children and grandchildren's lifetimes, that we might come to a point where the Earth community is uninhabitable for many of its people. We already know that for people in the Pacific Islands, they're islands because of the rising water, because of the melting ice and the rising water. Many of them have lost their homelands and are migrating to Australia or New Zealand. So some of this has already come about. Is it going to be enough so that the whole Earth community essentially collapses? And then I think you could all name some human activities that degrade the Earth. Anyone, any ideas just off the top of your head? What degrades the Earth?
Strip mining, deforestation,
Plastics in their disposal, they don't dispose.
You gotta talk louder.
Plastics and how they biodegrade, they don't.
Right.
And the creation of those plastics, the chemicals it takes to, and it goes into our environment.
Right. And Francis, would you say what you said a little louder?
Deforestation is one.
Certainly mining.
Yes,
Do
mine
you
is
know-
name first.
Do you know any way that you could mine, extract something from the Earth where it doesn't destroy part of the Earth? I don't know one. So when they talk about Earth-friendly mining, I'm thinking that's an oxymoron if I ever heard one.
Well,
Mountaintop removal in
Mountaintop.
mining.
Carbon emissions, as I was driving up here alone in a car.
But if you'd flown, it would be worse.
Yeah, a
Yes.
lot more, yeah.
But if we had, better more Earth-friendly transportation system, it wouldn't be as bad.
Mhm.
So, and what about fossil fuel extraction?
Mhm.
I don't know about you, but I've read many, many stories of areas where the land and the area is completely destroyed because of the way the oil
Strip
companies extract things. I think of Nigeria, I think of a case in, was it Ecuador, the last
I
one?
think it was Ecuador.
Ecuador, where the oil companies came in, extracted, left all the debris and oil spill stuff in the whole area, destroying the habitat for people. So I think we can all
Industrial farming.
industrial farming. And then the question becomes, well, what are some of the actions taking place now that are moving us into new worldviews and new attitudes? Well, we'll take more look at that in a minute. All right. As you look at those questions, is there any other comments that people might want to make about what comes into your mind when you look at those questions? Joan?
I just wanted to say, it's so contradictory. I totally believe in all the spirituality and all this, but in my daily habits,
Yes.
I still often, for example, even as we were talking, I was looking at, I brought my own water bottle so I wouldn't be using, but even around here we use plastic all over the place. We waste, and I do it in my personal life, but I thought the contradiction is my water bottle is plastic. Now I do have a metal one that I wash, and granted this lasts for a long time, but it's not biodegradable. You know, so it's like I totally believe in all the theories, but in the practical living out of it, sometimes I don't have a choice when I live in a place like this.
Well,
But I
and
do
it
have
just,
choices in my personal life, and Mimi and I have talked about trying to make some headway here on recycling a little bit more and those, but those are tiny little things. And then the other thing, and then I'll be quiet, is that on our country's level and globally, it's like some of the things that we worked and fought for are now being reversed.
Yes.
And that is so hard to witness. When major things and policies
Yeah.
go back on everything you've worked for and prayed for and hoped for and dreamed of.
and some of that goes back to the worldview that Mimi was talking about a few minutes ago. The idea that man can dominate the earth, and really everything on the earth is completely for human use, no matter what.
Doesn't it boil down to money? If
Profit.
the reason people do those things is because they're gonna make me more money.
And
if
give
I
me more
produce
power.
things. Yeah, more power. But that's been going on. Is anybody watching the revolution? You know, the.
Looking forward to
the-
it.
It's a kind of a itty bitty illustration of how human nature, they weren't together in any way whatsoever. They didn't know where they were going or what they were doing. Some of them had this idea, some of them had this idea, and they were trying to pull together so many different things and make sense of them. Those individual people, even the ones that signed up to fight, you know, they had an idea, and some of the things that it showed in the program last night, the people, the most recent recruits, it was because they could get land in Indian country, people that never had anything before. It was a chance, you know. It was very natural. They were trying to get ahead. They were trying to do something that would make a difference in their own personal lives, their ability to live and survive. Now that's been going on since Genesis. I'm sure Adam and
Before
Eve, and
Genesis.
what are those
Before
other
Genesis.
fellas, you know, Cain and Abel, and wasn't that, we've been doing that, and so that has another, it's another thing to consider. Yes, the worldview is wonderful if we can help people establish that. But, I don't know what you're gonna do about human nature.
Well,
And the damage it can do to everything.
but Adam and Eve had a biodegradable apple core.
We don't know what they did with it.
Did you wanna say
Just,
something?
what was I gonna say? Oh, I think in terms of worldview, the things I mentioned, another thing that's going to have to change is we're part of a living community. There are limits to what we can do. I think that what you were talking about, Marianne, about the profit motive, our worldview is kind of, well, it is profit, having more things, having more money, having more land. And what's the quote from Pope Francis? We're living in
A change of era.
a change of
not,
era.
Not an era of change,
But a
of
change of era. So I really think that it's kind of like an evolutionary leap in our consciousness. That if our worldview could be more, health and well-being for all, and that rather than just having a bunch of things. So I don't know. I think there are a lot of things part of our worldview that we have to question. That development and progress isn't just having more money and more things. We have to rethink that whole thing.
Just to add something here real quick. We're talking about the Western worldview, and specifically about the United States falling way behind and turning around. The rest of the world isn't. The rest of the world knows there's problems.
Yeah.
I mean, Kabul has 8 million people in it. They're running out of water and talking about evacuating 8 million people out of Kabul, Afghanistan. I mean, they know they're in real trouble. And I think China is way surpassing us on sustainable energy.
You're right.
And we've lost all of that.
Food.
Yeah,
They are at the point where they can feed their own people. We can't feed our own people.
so we're really this, the United States has been so powerful over the whole
Yes,
world.
you're right.
And we've just slipped way back.
I agree, yeah.
And sometimes we used to have a conscience
Yes.
and a soul.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or at
We are
least they tried to convince us that we had a conscience, and now we're just not even playing that game. So as we just talked about, there's two attitudes I think that biblical-based attitudes that we want to move away from. One, in Scripture it talks about dominion and subduing the earth. So the real meaning of that is more being responsible for, not dominating. So if we flip that a little bit, we get a different picture. And I think another one that we need to do is to think of, we have this hierarchical idea about man being on top. God's above that, of course, but then man, and then everything else is under that. We need to change our attitude so we truly live out a creation-centered attitude where we're just one among many. And I know Mary Ellen's going to talk about that a little bit later, so I will carry on.
Actually, this just talks about that.
Yeah.
All right, at this stage, what I'd like to do is go through a couple of things that were new for me, that were, some were new, some were reaffirmed, in terms of our laws and our legal system. In the 1970s, when we began to develop environmental protection laws, those things were looked at by the rest of the world as a positive development to try and protect our environment. However, those things have been gutted much in the last, 70 to 20, 2 plus 3, about 50 years. So that at this point in time, our environmental laws essentially are laws that are designed to give corporations the right to pollute. How so? Well, one of the tools in an environmental protection system is when somebody has a big project, they need to submit an environmental impact statement. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't, but they're supposed to. But in that, a big part of the environmental the environmental impact statement is, well, if there are harms involved in this, how do we mitigate them? How do we keep them from happening? How do we make them less? So what are we doing? We're essentially saying, okay, it's all right for you to do this harm if you compensate financially, if you prove that there's nothing else that would be as beneficial as this, but oftentimes the benefits are potential. Example, you've probably heard about the data centers, the AI data centers that are being promoted at this time, which you may have heard require massive amounts of water to cool the systems, the computer systems or whatever it is that are doing that. And that might mean changing a river's flow, damming a river. It might mean destroying sacred grounds for Native peoples, because where they're going to put it is primarily in Black and brown communities. They're not going to the ritziest part of town to try to put the data centers in. And then using all the massive amounts of water that it requires. When we know that the amount of fresh water we have is a fixed amount. So where am I going with this? So when the people come to this, the kind of benefits that they say could happen from the AI center, well, if we use AI, well, it can talk to us about how to solve some of our environmental problems. Hypothetical. The folks that come in and say, well, what are the harms? Their harms are really just, they're ones that have been proven. They know those harms are going to be there. So oftentimes with the environmental impact statement, it's giving the advantages, so to speak, for each project that is in the hypothetical. Whereas oftentimes the harms are actually ones that we can prove have happened. So back to the legal systems. One of the ways that we hope in our legal systems that we could make a difference is to change our laws so that they use as a principle the precautionary principle. Okay, what does that mean? It means it's a framework for decision making that advocates taking preventive action in the face of potential harm, and it suggests that when an activity it shifts the burden of proof from the people that are doing the project to and the people that are not in favor of it. It shifts the burden of proof to prove that the people that are doing the projects have to prove it's safe, rather than the way it is right now, which the people who are arguing against the project have to prove that it's harmful. So we're just kind of backwards in the way all of that goes.
New and I don't know how to do it. How do I do it? I'm sorry, this was new and I don't know how to use it.
And we all understand that, don't
I'm
we?
so sorry.
Well, we're happy you have a new phone.
I'm not. Thank you though. I'm so sorry.
Okay. All right, before we go on, I'd just like to invite us to stand for a minute or two. I'm feeling a little bit like it's getting warm and we haven't moved for a bit. And